This episode contains discussions of suicide, chronic pain, and mental health struggles. If you or someone you know is struggling, please reach out for support. Today's guest, Dean Daniel, now a good friend, all the way back from Middlesbrough in England. His story begins with a moment that will stay with you forever. A year ago, in March 2025, he threw himself backwards off the top story of his home, desperate to end the pain. But what's truly remarkable is what's happened since. In less than a year, Dean has transformed his life and mindset, creating Unbeaten, a movement dedicated to connecting and supporting those facing their own darkest moments. In this part one of a two-part series this week, here on Monday and Wednesday, and Tuesday Truth in the middle, you're going to hear the raw, unfiltered reality of living with invisible wounds, the spiral that led to his breaking point, and the first sparks of hope that followed. Dean's journey proves that even in the aftermath of something unimaginable, oh, that's a struggle, unimaginable struggle, it's possible to find purpose. It always is. It's building community and starting again. This is a conversation about vulnerability, resilience, and why none of us have to fight alone. Here's Dean and myself for part one. Welcome to Leading Our Own Way. I'm your host, Andrew White, and this is the podcast that unveils captivating narratives of resilience and personal triumph. This podcast is for anyone seeking inspiration and insights on overcoming life's challenges. Follow and subscribe, and then we can lead together forever. Before we dive in, I want to give a big, massive shout out to our now new proud sponsor, Eshu Skincare, a brand that truly aligns with leading our own way. This Australian-born company is dedicated to keeping skincare simple, effective, and straightforward. They've made waves in the US, even landed in Macy's and over 300 stores, and now they're back with a renewed focus on healthy skin and real results. If you want authentic skincare that fits your lifestyle, check them out in the show notes. Thanks to Eshu Skincare for supporting real stories and mental fitness on Leading Our Own Way. And if you're interested in sponsoring like Eshu Skincare, drop us a message. We'd love to connect. Dean Daniel, we made it happen. We finally made it happen. Welcome to Leading Our Own Way. How are you today, brother?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I know it's been an eventful one, hasn't it, trying to get it sorted, but I'm so happy and so proud to be here. So let's do it.
Yeah, it's been we've been talking for God knows how long now, haven't we? I feel like we've become pretty good mates.
Yes, that's it. Yes. Yeah, the odd text even there just to keep us going over the Christmas periods certainly helped as well, hasn't it? So
it has. And you know what? I think to paint the picture of where the direction of this episode is going to go, you and I have tried to film. One of them, was my fault because I did a public speaking event. I was absolutely exhausted, but we've postponed it a few times due to some of the things you're currently going through and what you're experiencing. It'll come crystal clear, but just tell us a little bit about what you're going through at the moment in terms of your body and things like that before we go into the depth of it.
Living with chronic pain at the moment, as we know, and as we'll go into this through the episode, you'll see why I got to this point. But it's literally every day I'm just living in this pain, which is just horrendous, to be honest. And this last, I'd say 10, 11 days now, the 11th day today, I've woke up again still in pain. And I used to call them like little blips, where the pain just gets so high that I have to increase the medication. I'm literally sleeping all the time. And through the day, just through medications, but then I'm not sleeping on the night, as you can imagine. So it's just a vicious circle, really. And then every time we've come to get this recording on, I've either not slept that night before, literally had an hour's sleep and just been in agony, try to take some medications, early morning and then just been wiped out. Or I've literally just slept all day and then not been able to get back up because of the pain and medication levels again. So it's been an eventful Christmas. Lovely to be home with the family and enjoy it, because as you'll see, the last couple of years I haven't really been present mentally either. So it was lovely to get that side of the family side and the Christmas festivals, season and stuff. But it's also been just basically Christmas dinner back in bed.
Yeah.
Boxing Day, watching the football, something to eat, back in bed. So people don't see that; they only see the other side of it. So
They do. Yeah, well, I mean, the other side is what you present to the world, and is that smiley face of yours. If anyone's watching on Spotify and YouTube, this smiley face of Dean's is he's so present, and you just said about that mental space where you were at. If you could paint a picture of where you were at versus you are now, before we again go into your journey, what would the old Dean look like versus the one we're looking at now with this beautiful smile and just happy chap?
completely different, Andy. Like honestly, I mean, I'd say just reverse it. I don't know, a year or so ago, just over a year ago. And I'll tell you, you'll see something shortly, but I'll tell you a little bit later in the episode of why today is a bit of a strange day.
Mm.
But it literally, I was just a shell. I was just somebody that was just living their life and just existing for the sake of my family and nothing else. And I never used to smile. I was always I would class myself as really lonely. I didn't want to come out of bed. I couldn't get out of bed some days just through pain, which then obviously, as you can imagine, spiraled my mental health. And I just couldn't see the future. To be honest, I couldn't see an hour, in front of me, never mind a day in front of me. And that was just day in, day out. There was no like, oh, it was okay for a week, or it was okay for a couple of weeks. It was literally just getting every day I was waking up and it was just progressively getting worse. So
Yeah.
now I'm here now, and I'm helping others, and I'm alive, and I know that life's precious. Although I'm still having to go through this pain and this, how I would call it, suffering, is I've got to just remember that I've got an amazing family, I've got an amazing support group around me, and I've got a life that I need to live to help others as well, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Hence coming on program, amazing podcasts like this.
No, I know it's a pleasure to have you here, and I'm sorry that you are going through the pain every single day. That pain has been happening for roughly how long would you say you've been feeling like you currently do every single day? How long has
Yeah,
that been going on
I've
for?
had the first surgery I had was 2018, and since then it's just we'll touch up on all of it, but
Yeah,
it's literally just spiraled from there. So, but I would say the last few years, from 2022, it really started to ramp up with pain levels. But I mean,
yeah,
anywhere from 2018, after that first surgery, is when it all started, and then it just we've had surgeries, as we'll go into. I've had
yeah.
treatments. I've had medication levels increased over time. But then it's just progressively got worse. Surgery after surgery, it's just continuously, the pain levels have just continuously got higher and higher.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's incredible. It's just remarkable your journey, Dean. It really is. But and the I suppose I think where we should start off before we get into how you are leading your own way, because you're doing some wonderful things, may I add, of what you're doing, not just for yourself but for the world, and what you're giving to the world now based off your own journey is absolutely incredible, and I can't wait to get stuck in. But here, just at the beginning, and I know we're going to go into that day when we get to it, because the viewers know the format of the episodes, where we'll do that full loop. We'll go back to the beginning, we'll crawl our way back to the present moment of where we're at now. But to give the viewers the depth of where you took yourself on that, I think you probably know what day I'm referring to. You just said you couldn't see yourself an hour ahead of time. What? How do I even ask this question? Where did you take yourself on a particular day? What did you do that was so drastic that could have destroyed you and your family's life?
But to be fair, this is what I was going to say just a couple of minutes ago. So I've attempted my life twice. And the first time being, funny enough, is a year today.
Oh, what?
Which is why I was like, we're doing this podcast because it needed to be done and said today.
It did. Oh my God.
So my first attempt was like say a year today,
I've got
and
shivers.
then the last one being March of obviously the previous year, and that was where everything stopped and everything changed for me, and it made me realize that I need to keep going, I need to keep fighting, and I need to be here for my family, but not only that, but for everybody else to see that if I can make it to the low that I got to, and the depth and the darkness that I got to. So I'm referring to, I jumped out the top floor window backwards. I'd just had enough of the pain. I'd had enough of living my life as I was living. Nobody was helping me in terms of my pain levels. I've got an amazing family, an amazing support group around me, but it wasn't enough. It was just my life had gone from, as we'll touch on it, was 200-meter runner. I was loving life, to a
Yeah.
personal trainer, to this guy who was out there, happy, smiley. Everyone could look at me and go, he's living his best life, as we call it. To this
Yeah.
person who was in bed at 30-odd-year-old, couldn't get out of this mental state, which I didn't want to be here. This medication cycle, which was just horrendous. I mean, 36 tablets a day, at one point,
Oh,
including oxycodone, tapentadol, pregabalins, tramadols, diazepams. And it was just all getting too much, and it was just getting ploughed on me, and nothing was working. And then I was looking and going, do you know what? I'm living my life for the sake of existing, and it was no life to live. And then my family, as we'll touch on it again, is my family have had to watch me deteriorate both physically and mentally. I've got two kids as well, and it was getting to the point where I didn't want them to be affected by it, and see that what's happening to the dad or their daddy, and it was just too much, and it just got to a point where I was like, they're better off without me now. And there one evening, I just had enough, and we'll go into it later, I'm sure. But I jumped out the window, in the hope that that was it. It was, everyone else was, although the pain was, I at the time thought, although the pain was going to be short lived, I thought it would help them in the long run. Whereas actually now I know that I'm out of that headspace, and now I know that I'm in a place where I need to fight and I need to keep going. That was actually the worst decision I could have made, thinking,
yeah.
that they would think like that, because it's actually not.
Well, you're looking very dapper right now on camera, Dean, and I'm actually going to show you another picture of how dapper you're also looking. Guys, check this out. He's looking fresh. He looks fresh. If you look at some of the fashion shoots he does, he's a good looking boy. He's looking
Looking
good,
at it at
man.
the moment, I haven't had too much of a shave. I've usually got my beard all tidied up, and so
I know I was going to go for a haircut today, and then it's summer holidays here. I got the kids in the car. It's 25-minute drive to where I go on the Great Ocean Road from a haircut, and he cuts it the way I like it. And then all the traffic backed up at the roundabout near my place. I was like, and I looked at the maps, it said 52 minutes. I went, nah, going
I'll leave
tomorrow.
it. It's only
I'm leaving
Dean.
it. Sorry. Dean will have to deal with my longer hair, so I apologise. Because we brought up the anniversary there, Dean, I think we should tell people the date today. It's Monday, the 29th of December. And because this probably won't go out till, the end of the first quarter of next year. So I think it's important people know that anniversary that you brought up. So, yeah, 29th of December 2005 is when we recorded this. Somebody famously said some words to you that made you, I think, change your life. And those words, if I recall, and I want you to answer this question. I'm going to change it into a question. There is a reason you are here. What is the reason you are here?
It's to show the world and show people out there that are struggling that don't give up. Don't, you've got to keep fighting. You've got to be present. And I truly believe now, after that moment, and it was my mum that had said those words to me, is that she'd turned up at the hospital. That was all. So she turned up once I jumped. And as you can imagine, they must have all got the phone calls, and I was in resus and whatever else, and we'll go into that. But she'd said that, and she said, there's a reason why you're still here. There's no way that people can go through what you've been through, two attempts on your life. We'll go into it later, but I fell down the stairs top to bottom 6, 7 times. I'm collapsing on a daily basis due to vasovagal syncope. And I can just be walking around. I've collapsed in the middles of the streets, in shopping centres, in car parks, wherever else, and I've stopped breathing. My wife's had to do CPR on me 5 times now,
I know.
one
What a
being a few
life.
weeks ago. And so she said, you're here for a reason, and that's to show the world that, you know what, we come together, and there is a future for you, even if you are struggling. And I want people to relate to that and just say, look, I always say this. I don't do this for pity. I don't do it for people to think, wow, look at Dean Daniel. He's doing this. He's doing that. It's not about that. It's
No.
about showing the world that, you know what, you can get to these darkest and these lonely places, and you can still come out the other end, and there's still light and there's still a future for you. And that's all I want to do. This is me in the hope that I can show people that there is a life that's worth living.
Absolutely. Mate, I'm so glad you're here. I love it. It's just incredible what you're doing. Let's go then.
Let's
You
go.
are leading your own way, in your own way. Talk to us about how you're doing that.
So I founded my brand Unbeaten now from that
Oh,
moment of when I had what we were saying there about when I literally had woke up. There she is.
yeah. Just
Um,
showing people the picture of the Unbeaten. I'll flip this on the screen so everyone can see it as well.
Great.
Amazing. Sorry, go on.
So and it all came about with that moment that I woke up and it was like a murder scene. It was like something off a movie. And I'd woke up and I was on the floor, on my back, couldn't move from my neck downwards. I could just move my eyes like that. And there were sirens everywhere. The air ambulance was there, police were there. There was screams of my wife and family, as you can imagine. And it was just a horrendous moment. And I laid there and I thought, what am I doing? You could hear my wife screaming. I could hear like even the neighbours that were out, they were all crying because it was just a scene that you don't expect to see on every day. And I said to them, I said, oh look, I said, I'm sorry. And I remember her screaming and crying, and we were talking and like you do, and they were trying to bring me back round, and I was in and out of consciousness, and I remember thinking, do you know the amount of destruction and pain that I'm causing here? Although that I don't want to be here, I need to do something because I can't let my family go through what they're going through now. It's just horrendous. And then I blacked out. And then obviously went into hospital and whatever else. And at that point I thought, do you know what? Like, I need to be here. My mum came in and we just touched on there. And I thought, do you know what? This can happen so quickly. I never thought this would happen to me. From what the space of the December to the March, I'd attempted my life twice. And I was one of these guys who used to think, I don't get mental health. I don't understand it. I don't understand why people don't want to be here, and for the families and for the self and whatnot. And it happened to me, and so at that point I thought, you know what, I need to find something here that we can all come together with and relate to and think, do you know what, like I've got my clothing brand through Unbeaten, just another way of talking. I'm doing my amazing podcasts like these. I'm doing speaking events throughout the world, which is just amazing. We've just brought a song out by Simon Roberts, which is just amazing, Unbeaten. And that was through, just another way of people connecting to the brand and connecting to the movement and realizing that different people work differently and react to, like, for example, if you might not like to talk, but John down the road can. So he's going to open up and quite easily speak to someone. But other people, they don't like to. And to be honest, I didn't before I got into all of this. I was a bit like, I don't want to speak to people. Why would people? And that's us blokes, isn't it? In a nutshell. So that's why I bought the clothing brand out so people can relate to the clothing brand and read it and think, oh, do you know what? I like that. What does that relate to? And then it starts. The conversation can start there. Um, yeah, and it's just everything really. I'm just trying to bring everything together to then show the world and show these people out there that are struggling that there's so many ways that you can communicate with people and so many ways that you can show that, there's the support out there for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, what type of clothing is it then? Can we explain?
Yeah,
So, because I put
yeah,
everything in the
I've
show
got it on
notes as
now.
well.
There's polos, there's round neck t-shirts, I've got hoodies, but I've been approached by so many people saying, will you just bring a tracksuit out? Will you bring a cap out? Will you bring, because I think the more and more people that are realizing that mental health is here. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, it's here to stay and it's affecting so many people. Like I always say this, it doesn't choose its targets. It doesn't matter what colour you are, what religion you are, where you're from in the world, it's going to hit you and it hits you hard. So I wanted it to be literally, it's a people's brand really. And I want people to look at the clothing brand and think, do you know what, like if you think to me, Dean, can you maybe do, I don't know, a pair of socks? Whatever the way, we will make it work for people because I don't care how it gets out there, whether it's, whether I always say this, whether it's me showing my vulnerability and me just literally opening up to the world and standing on the stage with feels like I've got nothing on and going, look at me, I'm this vulnerable, but if it helps one person in that room, then I've done my job and I'm happy.
Yeah. And the title Unbeaten is probably fairly obvious to most people of why you've
Yeah.
chosen Unbeaten. But tell me, I suppose I want to know what made it flick? Where did that word unbeaten come for you to be
Yeah,
part of that
well,
journey?
as you can imagine, and the word says unbeaten is we won't be
Yeah,
beaten by mental health and
yeah,
suicide.
mm,
And it's so easily, like I said there, it's so easily done. And you think how many people are losing their lives out there at the moment. And it's just, the statistics are just getting worse and worse. Now, although there's some amazing people out there doing some incredible things, I always say this is we're never going to eradicate mental health and suicide. We never will. It's society and its education side of things and whatever else. But we can give it a good go. And
yeah.
and no matter where you're getting it from, whether it's through a talk, whether it's through a clothing brand, whether it's through a podcast, whether it's wherever you can relate to, then surely that's the only way that we can help save as many lives as we can. And that's all I want to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I always come from the angle of, preventative. Like, I want to get back to the bare essentials, of good sleep and good food and good learning and good movement and exercise as best as we possibly can from the day, from when our children are born, because I think things are always going to go wrong in our lives. I think that's inevitable. We're going to climb one hill, and when we reach the top of the hill, we're going to see a much bigger mountain on the other side, and we have to be prepared for that. Right. And I think if the body's got the raw materials that it needs, and which feeds the mind, because the fastest way to the mind, to the brain, is through our gut, and looking after our brain obviously is a main point. If we can prepare the body and mind as best as we can, when things do go wrong, we're better prepared. And I'm not saying we won't sit in sadness. I'm not saying we won't sit in fear. Of course we will. They're all survival emotions that have been around for 4 or 5 million years, however long the human physiology has been around. But yeah, you're right. We've got to make it like it's not there's a stigma towards it. For the flip side of what you said, I've always been an open book. Everyone listening who's friends of mine will go, yep, he's always been a talker. And I release those undesired emotions every single day by talking. Probably over talking, to be fair. And I could feel the energy on people going, oh, here we go again. And I probably pushed people away from me because I was an over talker. But what I did learn over a 7-year period was venting every day. Yes, it releases the undesired emotions, but as soon as you go to sleep the next day, it's back again, and you're venting again, and you live in eventually you live in that victim mentality, and and yeah, I think building awareness around it is super key. That will never go away. We'll always struggle, but also I also want to attack it from the other side, so we can have the foresight rather than the hindsight. And you and I have, unfortunately, the hindsight because we've been through the crisis. But if we can put ourselves in a position to help others before they get to that point of jumping from the window, or having nearly dying from sepsis, or from chronic stress, and living in chronic stress constantly, or suicidal thoughts, whatever it is we can do, that's super important, isn't it?
Yeah,
And the brand
exactly.
is perfect way of doing that.
And I think where people don't realise that I'll admit it, I didn't. I never thought it would ever happen to me.
Yeah, me too.
You
Yeah.
just you look at 10 years, well, what, 10 years ago now. If you'd have asked me, would I be sat here thinking that I've gone through 2 attempts on my life and deteriorated as fast as I did from that point to this point, I would have said, don't be silly, like that's not me,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I have got an amazing family. I couldn't wish for a better support group around me. I couldn't. Um, and for it to happen to me is scary because it's like, wow, that did happen. This is life. This you don't. It's so easy to look on the TV or your social media and think,
Mm.
saw a poor young lad or a young female's lost a life here. They've done this, and this. I wonder why.
Mm.
There must be because of this. It must be because of that. Well, actually, no. It doesn't. It doesn't happen like that. And it just. And I'm like, say, and yourself as living proof of that. That if it comes and when it does come, it hits you so hard that you just think, wow, what was that? And
Mm.
luckily, I'm out the other end and I've survived. And
Yeah.
although I'm still having to go through a lot of pain and suffering moving forward, is that I say this all the time, is once them lights go off and it goes black, there's no coming back. That's it. It's permanent. Whereas
Mm.
each morning you wake up and you're here and you're present, things can get better and they will get better. And again, I'm living proof of that now. Yes, is my life perfect and how I wanted to live it? No. But is it better than it was this time last year? 100 million%. And I need people to see that. And I want people to really, really realize that each day that you're here, each day that you're present, that you're here for yourself and for your family is a successful day. And do you know what? I never used to get it, and I used to think mental health will just come, and then once it goes, like when I think it must have been in the June, July of this year, even. I started to feel a lot better in myself. And the thoughts weren't there, the feelings weren't there. Not the pain was still there, but the level that it took me to where I went from literally, Andy, to actively seeking to get out of the house to how could I hurt myself to the house was locked down into basically a secure unit. Otherwise, I would have been in a secure unit. Um, I should have been the amount of times that they wanted to put me into a hospital, and my wife had fought it and said, "Please just let him come home. I'll look after him at home because of his back, because of his condition and his pain. It's not the environment that he's gonna work with and he's gonna thrive in. And if anything, to be honest, if I maybe had gone in, although these places are really good and professional and all that, it wasn't the place for me, and I would have deteriorated, and I would have just kept attempting my life. I know I would have. Now, although I've come back home and it put a lot of pressure on the family and whatnot, was it helped in that way because I was at home. But again, I was in that mood of why do I have to live my life like this? And I was, we had the whole house locked down, all the doors were locked, all the windows were locked, the knives and everything were put away. There was, even though I never had thoughts about that, the thoughts that I was having were so powerful and they were so dark that my wife had just literally had to strip the house bare and was like, look, anything that he needed, she was following me there, here, there, and everywhere. And we can laugh about it. I said, yeah, she was even in the shower with me at one point, and I was like, this took 8 years to get to this point. Like, and now, we joke about it, and she's like, but the thing is, she didn't want to leave. She was literally she'd sit on the toilet while I was in the shower because she was that concerned that I would do something silly to myself. So when I got to that point where I was like, I'm not feeling like that anymore. I actually feel like I do want to be here, and everything's took off with the brand and my talks and everything else. It was like, oh, it's gone. Mental health's gone. Oh, great, I'm okay now. Well, it's so wrong because it doesn't. It just, and I always call them little blips because they do just come back, and you do get these. Like for me, when the pain gets too high, like it is at the moment, my mind then starts to wander and goes back to that point where here we go again. Is this the pain that is I was in a year ago when I wanted to not be here? Is this the pain that I have to now live with for the rest of my life? And your mind starts to take over, and it's such a powerful thing, your mind.
Yeah.
And but again, you've got to fight that and think, well, no, do you know what? You're not having me. And again, that's all to do with Unbeaten. That I won't be beaten by these thoughts. I won't be beaten by these feelings, and I will carry on going, and I will keep fighting because it's what we need. Otherwise, unfortunately, the statistics are just going to keep getting higher and higher.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the pain you're in right now, if on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 obviously being the highest pain, where would you lie on that scale right now? If I
It's high at the moment. It hasn't dropped below 8.5 over this last week. I would say 10 days ago it was around the 10. If you can call it something silly, but 11, I could do it. I mean, I've been back on oxycodone 4 times a day. I mean, and that stuff is just horrendous stuff. It just sends you into like la la land. Whether it knocks you out because it's so strong, or it just knocks you out because of the pain gets too high, and then that comes in and just sends you into like a zombified state, I call it.
Yeah.
And you just end up laying there and thinking, God, here we go again. So then all of that, but if I don't take that, then the pain just continues, gets to get higher and higher and higher, and then your mind does then start to click back into that like, here we go. Is this it? Is this it for me now? Am I going to get them same thoughts and feelings? And that's the scary thing. But I think what you need to realize, and if anyone out there is struggling, is they need to realize that that's okay. Like, you've got to be kind to yourself, and you've got to show yourself some love, because I never used to. Like when this first started happening to me, I'd be laying in bed and be laying there and thinking, do you know what? I should be out with my wife now doing things. I should be out with a little one. I should be going and watching the football, but I wasn't. I'm laying in bed, and it would then make me feel even worse. And I'd be thinking, I'm just useless. Like, I am actually a useless dad. I'm actually a terrible husband. And what type of person am I, just laying in bed all the time? And then them thoughts then start to take over again. Whereas now I just have to lay there, and although I'm in pain and I'm laying there and I'm thinking, no. And although you do want to think those thoughts, to be honest, you do, because it's natural. I have to remind myself to go, no, do you know what, Dean? Don't be silly. It's okay. This is just a blip, as you want to call it,
Mhm.
and it will ease, and it will. It does. It has, and hopefully it will continue that. I just got to realize that in life, this is what my life's going to be like, unfortunately now, and unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about it apart from keep going and keep fighting.
Well, it's that positive mindset is what you can do about it, isn't it? And
Mm.
you're constantly learning how to look after yourself and improve one day at a time, I guess. And I think you're right with the tricking of the brain. It's like what I say to children. And I actually know somebody here who's got a podcast called Not Today, Derek, and Derek is the alternative ego. And he always, I was doing, that's who I did some public speaking with not long ago. And he always goes, not today, Derek. So, alter ego is what I was looking for,
Alter
alter
ego,
ego.
yeah.
And he says, not today, Derek. So, in a way, you can do that. You
Mm.
say the blip, but you just say, right, well, Derek, I'm not listening to you today, Derek. I'm going to go out with my wife and my children today, Derek. See you later. And that's how I think that's probably one of the best ways. I always say to a kid when he makes poor decisions, children that I work with, I actually use the word Steve, call it Steve. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And call it Steve. Like, you can trick your brain. And I prove it to him by going on YouTube and saying, have you seen the kids who put VR sets on? Well, the brain does trick you because they're the ones who are jumping into walls. Whereas,
Yeah.
would you jump into a wall if you didn't have a VR set on? No, you wouldn't, because it's
Yeah, exactly.
stupid.
It's true. It's right though, isn't it?
Yeah,
And your
absolutely.
mind is so powerful. I never realized just how powerful your mind can be,
Yeah,
and how where obviously the place that it can take you, but what it can actually trick you into thinking and feeling. And that does scare a lot of people. And I do understand that, and a
yeah,
lot of people do get concerned about that and think, where is this taking me? Why am I feeling like this? But
mm,
you've just got to know that it's okay. And do you know what? My biggest thing was that you thought you were alone. So I
yeah.
used to sit there in the bathroom. I'd turn the shower on so no one could hear me, and I would just sit in the toilet and cry my eyes out and be like,
Just taking a very quick break to thank our sponsor, SU Skincare. If you haven't heard of them, SU Skincare started right here in Australia, using Australian ingredients to make skincare straightforward and accessible, especially for men who want results without the fuss. Their journey took them all the way to the US, where they were featured in Macy's and over 300 stores. Now they're back with a fresh approach, focusing on healthy skin and authenticity for everyone. I'm proud to have SU Skincare as a sponsor on Leading Our Own Way. See the show notes for their website and to see how you can keep your skin healthy and confident. And if you're interested in sponsoring like SU Skincare, drop us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Now, right back to the episode.
what is going on? Like, what life is this? But at that moment in time, I used to feel that there was only me going through this,
Yep.
and I was on my own. And then I would wipe my face with, dab my face away, turn the shower off, come back out and try and be this dad, this husband that I was aiming to be. And I'd get back into bed or whatever, and I'd be thinking, why is this happening to me? But actually, which is unfortunate and it's awful, is that that is happening to so many people as well. And to also know that though now, when I've come out of it, it's not nice, but it's like actually that wasn't just me. That wasn't,
Mm.
unfortunately, you don't want anyone else to suffer and struggle, but you're not alone. And I think when people are in them dark moments and they really are struggling like I was, is you do feel that there's nothing else, there's nobody else. And, whereas actually, this is why I do what I do, even with my men's mental health groups, just come along and just listen to other people's stories. Because although I always say this, although my story is my story, my journey is my journey, yours is exactly the same, Andy. Yours is just as powerful as mine in different ways. John down the road, he's got just as powerful story as yours and myself. So, but it's nice when a group of, it doesn't have to be males, but I do it for males because us males, predominantly don't talk, don't open up, and don't show our emotions. I do it to everyone comes together, and when they open up, it's so lovely to hear people showing their stories and sharing everything that they're going through, because I know someone else will jump in and say, well, actually, so and so, I've been through that, and this is what I did, and it can help save so many people without even, realizing.
Absolutely, and so with the men's group, because you do with Unbeaten, you do quite a little bit of, well, a few collaborations, don't you? You collaborated with Man Cave. You've done talked a little bit about the jewelry and the. I think you
Yeah.
did something. Did you do something with a cosmetic company as well?
Yeah, because he's amazing. So I got approached by the CEO and founder. He's called Ashley Crown, and he's an amazing guy. Literally just one of us, a normal guy who has actually had his struggles as well. I won't go into too much of that, but he's then had his struggles, and then so from his struggles, he also wants to save and help people. So and he's gone down the cosmetics um, route into it. And we got talked about mine because obviously when I fell down the stairs on one of my falls, I smashed all my teeth out. And at that point, I was like, so then straight away, you're looking at yourself in the mirror, and I hated what I looked like in the mirror anyway. But then when I had no teeth, I was like, great. So we got talking, and we chatting and whatnot about that, and he aligns so much with me because he's trying to help people out from a physical side as well. People are really struggling in their life, and I know that he's had people come to him who've literally been on the edge because they don't like the way they look. So when he proposed to me, he was like, could we come together? Could we come together and would you do some ambassador work for us? And since then we've become great friends as well. Like really, he's a really lovely guy. And now we've set up a podcast as well. And he's just to bring both areas together. And he's brilliant. I mean, and so that one, which is for me was a big one because I hated the way I looked, and when I was also taking medication and stuff like that, is it changes your whole face. Man, all balloons up. I get swollen eyes, swollen around here, and he was like, it's a lot of it is what you can see in the mirror as well, and it's so true. So I did that. I work with a jewelry company who are just amazing.
Watches.
The watches, yeah, face watches, they're brilliant. I'm doing some modelling now, and I've got some really good opportunities coming up, which I can't say too much yet, but I'm just literally signing a few things now, and it's gone crazy. But do you know, for me, it's about showing the world that you can get to that awful place and that dark place, and there's a future for you. And I've touched on it earlier about it, but it can show you how quick life can turn around. And I'm back into being the person that I want to be, where I'm out there and I'm getting invites to awards and nights out and events in different countries and whatnot. And I think, do you know what? I nearly missed out on all this. Like these memories that I'm making now, not just for my family, but for me as well, is it's massive. And
Amazing.
I just want everyone to be proud now and realize that, do you know what? Like, I want people to look and go, oh, don't look and go, oh, bless him. He's been there and now he's doing this. I'm not bothered about that. I just want people to look at me and go, you can struggle and you can be at the lowest of the low and you can still come out the other end and look what's happening now. And although it does, if I do an event, say, I went over to Albania to go around the clinics and whatnot, and I did a talk and stuff over there. Now, it was great for the 3 days I was over there, but then I was in 4 days in bed when I got home.
Oh yeah,
So people don't see that side, but
yeah.
I'm willing to do that because in my eyes it was 7 days a week in bed, literally dying. So if I can spend 2 or 3 days a week out doing something beneficial for other people, and then if I have to just deal with the consequences after, then so be it.
What a mindset. Yeah, love it.
So
Absolutely love it. Yeah. Well, and I wanted to ask you because I wrote I wrote a note down about asking you a Tesco story.
yes.
Tell us a Tesco story.
So, well, we can have a bit of a laugh. So, on one of them, there's two of them. But are you referring to the car parking incident? Are you referring to the gentleman I
Coffee.
spoke to? Yeah, the coffee gentleman one.
Yeah.
So
I didn't
I'll
know
tell
about
you.
the car park one. You have to
Oh,
tell.
that's just a funny. It's just a funny, a bit of a joke one for you. But the one that the big one for me was what you're meaning there was. So one of the mornings I'd got up and I'd put my clothing brand on, and it was my t-shirt, and on the back, if you go on the website unbeaten.org.uk, you'll see it. And it's got the logo on that you just showed the viewers there, and then the wording underneath. I was stumbled, I will fall, but I'll keep getting back up and fighting. And anyway, I was walking in And I was feeling quite low at the time as well, and I was in quite a lot of pain, and I was literally, well, I say walking in, I was stumbling in, and I was doing what the missus hates and going to get a Red Bull, just 'cause when I'm in that low state and I've got my medication's high, and I just feel like I said earlier, like a zombie. I was going for a Red Bull, so and I remember I got a tap on the shoulder, and it was off a guy, and he just said, "I love that T-shirt. What? Where did you get that from?" And I told him, I said, "Oh, it's my brand, Unbeaten, and basically it's this." And I told him started explaining this, but we were literally stood in the middle of the Tesco foyer. So I said to him, "Well, do you want to grab a coffee?" And there was Costa Coffee in there. So we ended up going in, sitting in this Costa Coffee and having a cup of coffee with him. And I basically explained why I'm doing what I'm doing, this journey, what we're talking about now, and everything like that. And he just broke down and he said, "That's amazing." And I said, "Are you okay? Like, what's wrong?" And he was like, "I'm really struggling." He just got out the forces and he was struggling himself, and he didn't know where to turn, what to do. And he was a big bloke, and he was like, "I've been in the forces all my life. I'm out now and I don't know how to live civvy life," he called it. And he was like, I can't just understand how I could live like this. This isn't me. And I know he's struggling at home with his family life, and because he's probably just used to being away all the time and then come back, and you know what it's like. It's a big life change, isn't it? So, and he just basically broke down. He was like, "But you know what? I love what you're doing," and he supports the band now and everything. And I forever see him walking around with different T-shirts and hoodies and whatever else on. But it was lovely because that was his way of communicating. And he said, "I would never go and just talk about it in the pub or in a coffee shop. That's not him." He said, "But the brand brought him in, the T-shirt brought him in, and before he knew it, he was opening up and speaking." And for me, that was massive because that was my aim. That was that what I said earlier about different ways of people communicating. That was it. That was his way. And it might not have, but it might have just saved him, because it might have saved him from which I'll go into in a minute, is them alarm bells ringing, that when they start to ring, of you get these thoughts and you get these, that might have just stopped that and halted it a little bit, and then give him a bit of purpose to think, well, do you know what, I actually want to be here. And so it's done its job.
Absolutely, and that's kind of like, in a way, is it the man cave that you said before, that you mentioned before, the men's groups? Was it men? Is it called man cave?
I've got my own Unbeaten one, but then I'm
Oh yeah,
working now in the new year with Man Cave, yes, and we're
yes,
going to be looking at doing a rundown from the northwest along to the northeast where I am.
that's right. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
interviewed Luke Ambler, who is
Oh
the
yes.
the leader of Andy's Man Club. Oh,
Right, yeah.
I've actually got his pin right here. Yeah.
And they're
Um,
doing some amazing work as well.
Yeah, incredible. And, everyone's got obviously their own ways, haven't they? And things like that. And Luke was amazing. We had a great chat, and I'd love to meet him too if I ever go home. But yeah, he told me where Andy's Man Club came from, with, Andy passing away through suicide. And obviously there's a journey there within itself. That was his brother-in-law. But what you did there with that guy in the coffee in Tesco was you created a little man's group.
Yeah.
Whether it was Unbeaten Man's Group or whether it was a man cave or an Andy's Man Club, that your symbol, that logo, opened up that safe space for him to open up. Because he's seen you there, hasn't he? Also a dapping young man, fit lad, and opening up and letting loose, and that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Because again, you don't think that at that point you don't think anyone else is going through it, and
Oh,
he's
I didn't.
obviously walked. He may have gone out on that morning, and like I've done, and been just oblivious to everything else going on around you, because all you can think about is how depressing and
Mm,
how much you're struggling, and you don't see it. You don't see anyone else's side, and that for me was massive, because, like you said, there is you've created your own little safe space, and although it was half an hour out of my time, I could have sat there all day with him if he needed me to sit with him and talk about his struggles, and he really did open up, and it was crazy that someone who's just tapped you in, 10 minutes earlier, tapped you on your
mm,
shoulder and said, "I like that T-shirt,"
yeah.
to literally opening up about all of his personal life. It was crazy. And I always say I'm not a professional. I don't, pretend to be, and I can't give you, but I can give you advice on my lived experiences, and I can give you advice on the thoughts. And like he was telling me that he'd had certain visions and certain thoughts were like coming up all throughout different times of the day. Was that normal? And I was like, well, explain that to me. Now, from a professional side, a professional who hasn't been through that can say from the books or whatever else you want to call it, is you do this, and do this. But until you've actually lived it, until you've actually felt those those thoughts and those feelings and that experience, it's completely different. And he was telling me certain things, and I was like, do you know what? I get that, because I looked at it in 2022. I had my first, I would call like mental health episode, and I was in a top floor room in a hospital, and I was laid there in this bed, and I was the youngest guy in there, and there was older guys, bless them, who were like 90-year-old fitter than me, and I used to lay there and go, wow, like, what's happening here? The nurses were coming in, putting me on the little wheelchair commodes, taking me into the shower rooms for me to go to the toilet and then have a shower. And I'm laying there and I'm thinking, how's my life come to this point now? Like, I used to be out there running for England, living the life that I loved. And then even though that got cut short, I was then personal training and helping people in other ways, and I was loving it. And I was nearly 19 stone, muscle, felt well, looking well, to this person who's now sat on this wheelchair. Now, don't get me wrong, there's no,
Yeah.
it's not a negative side of it from people in wheelchairs, but it's just that my life had gone from that to that real quick.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, wow, they were wheeling me up into the bathroom, and I'm sat there and thinking, I can't get out of this chair. This is just horrendous. They would take me back to you'd have your toilet and your shower or whatever else, take me back in. And I laid there one night and I looked, and we were, like I say, really high up. And I just looked out the window and I thought, do you know what? If I could jump, in that moment, I actually would have. If I could have got out of that bed and shimmied myself out, I would have, but I couldn't do it. And I actually thought, if I could jump out this window now, I would. And I laid there in bed, and I was just so upset and I was so down. And I remember messaging my wife, and I told her, because we've always been really close, and I told her, and I just texted her, said, listen, I've got these thoughts here, and the thoughts where, not just a thought where they've come and gone. Like, I've been looking out the window and thinking about it now for a while. And I texted her and said, if I could jump out this window, like, honestly, this pain's horrendous, I really would. And anyway, unbeknown to me, she'd rang them, and they came in and dealt me with that way. But that was the first time that I'd actually encountered anything to do with mental health. And since then, it was like, it'll be okay. I had another surgery, and then I was told that you'll feel a lot better. And, you'll feel, as I would say, rubbish after it, because you've got your recovery period and stuff. But then after that, you're going to start to pick up. And unfortunately, I never did. But I look and think, from that point there to then the next stage, to the next stage, to the next stage, there's alarm bells that keep ringing. And it's whether you pick up on them alarm bells. And like he said to me, just little things that he'd said that he'd thought about this. And I thought, if someone gets hold of him now, which I did, hopefully, that can stop that next stage from happening. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't have the support, or they don't see those alarm bells, or unfortunately some people don't want to see those alarm bells.
Yeah. It's a crazy journey. And I think you've touched on it before. I really wanted to go back to your life in Middlesbrough, growing up as a child. You're running for England. I mean, it is a bit of a flip, isn't it? Talk to us a little bit about your childhood. I know you had a great childhood. Your sister was a runner as well. Paint the picture of your running career then for us.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, like you say, from the age of 7, I was competing, just locally as you do, and then you start to build it up. But then I competed both, ran for a club in Middlesbrough, and then I got picked up from that club to a club down in London, Newman Essex Beagles. I ran for them. And then I got my England call up, and I competed over in Belgium, and I went away with the Great Britain team in the World Juniors. We went to training camps and everything. And I broke the British record, which was the English schools record when I was 16. It was like everything was going the way I wanted life to go. That was from a young age. That's all I wanted to do. You hear these footballers, and these sports stars who are out there, and all they wanted to do is compete. That was me. Nothing else mattered. I just wanted to live this life of me being this athlete and making, the Olympic Games and medaling and making everyone proud. And I loved it. So that was why it was such a big shock, because I'd gone from that to the support and everything around me. And then unfortunately that got cut short through an accident. And then I was like, right, well, no, it is what it is. That's life. And I used to always have that approach to life: is these things happen. He is sent for a reason. Everything happens for a reason, and we move on. So because I couldn't live my dream and help, you know, show the world what I could do in terms of my ability, then I wanted to let other people, show the world theirs. So I wanted to help them. So I went into my personal training and did all that, and I loved it. Trained some amazing people, had some great results, and just loved helping other people as well. But I was always fit, so it wasn't just that. It was keeping me fit, and it was keeping me looking well and feeling well, and if I couldn't compete and do what I wanted to do, at least I could help others and look well and feel well in myself. And that's all life's about, isn't it? It's being happy and making
Yeah.
a difference. And then obviously I had the accident which set the first lot of surgeries off in the late 2017.
So, with going back to the car accident, was that the significant pivotal point in the change of your running career then? Because you were 17 years old in 2004, I think, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly. Was that the change for your running career? Did it,
yeah,
I mean, how
yeah.
bad was the accident? Did it stop the running completely, or just did it slow you down? How long were you out for? Paint a
Yeah,
picture of
so
that change. I mean, was it a normal day? Were you actually in a car going to an event?
no, we were going up. So we were going up to so when you go to international events and whatnot, you go up and you get like your kit trials, you go and get your
Yeah.
blood tests and training stuff and whatever else. And we were actually going up there, and I wasn't driving; I was a passenger. And we were just driving up. It was just a normal night where we'd always go up to the track. We would get all your testing done, and then bang, that happened. 6 car pile up. And yeah, I knew I couldn't compete at the level, so it wiped me out. We were took to hospital. There was a lot of rehab and recovery stage. If you're going to remember, when you're an athlete, you've got to be 110%, especially a sprinter. Everything has got to be right, because you've got to literally go from zero to real quick. So
Yeah.
everything has to be perfect. Your preparation, your fitness, your mentality, everything.
Because you were
And
200 meters, weren't you?
200 meters, yeah. I
And
did
just
the
quickly, that
100.
record sorry to cut you off there, but whilst we're on the 200 meters, you had a record. Tell us the record and what was the
So yes,
English schools
it's the
record?
English schools record, which is 21:44. It's still not broken now. I think it was broke um, as a wind assisted one a couple of years back now, and I always watch it and think doesn't
That
count.
don't
That doesn't
don't
count.
count. Nah.
Um, but it was crazy because it was in heat as well. And the heat was literally, I was so relaxed, so chilled. And I remember coming off the bend and just relaxing down the home straight. And I literally was jogging the last 30 meters, and it came through and it popped up championship record. And I was like, what? Because
Why did you jog? You keep
I
going,
know,
man.
and well, I look back now and I think I wish I did. I wish I'd have kept going. But it was surreal. It was like, wow, has that happened? And then, um, so that was just amazing, that the feelings I got, and it was like, this is everything I've worked for
Mm,
from being 7 year old when I first started competing to 16 year old of breaking that record. And I used to always look and go, oh, wow, the English Schools, which is a big national event, was everyone used to aim for that and be like, look, I want to make the through your school events and whatever else. And when I made it, it was great to even be there, but then to get the record and then go on and whatever else, and then that was that. So I was like, I've done it. And then I got my England call ups, and then I was getting rang by Great Britain to go and do relay events and events all around the world. And I went over to Grosotto in Rome with them and met some incredible people, and everything was just going just lovely. And then that happened.
right in the
But
mix of middle of it all.
yeah, and it was like, do you know what? I'll fight and I'll carry on, because I've always been like that. Let's give it a go. But every time I tried to come back, so it took me about 18 months, and I can't go into too much of the funding side of it with
Yeah.
athletic stuff, but you have to you're always on a program, so you're not on like a contract. So there's a program that you're on, and if you don't hit certain standards, then you don't go on that program for support and moving forward. So, and obviously I was off, so I couldn't get, I couldn't, you weren't hitting them times, and it then by the time the second year came, and it was like, right, let's get back into it. And I got back in, and I was doing a competition at one of the 3As, they call it. And I was there, got through to the semi-finals, and all I needed to do was get back going, and I broke down in the warm-up, and it was like, what's going on? My body was just done. And then they came out and said, have you had a major trauma? And the medical team, and I was like, yeah. And they were like, I don't know how you're still running. Your stabilizer muscles are all over the shop and whatever else. And it was just a mess. It was like, and then it was starting off all over again. It was, I had to get this stabilizer muscles, activated and working correctly. Then it was getting my pot, and it was just a lot of work. And I tried it, but then it just got to a point where every time I got somewhere, something else would go wrong. And I just like, you know what? If I can't compete at the level that I was at and I wanted to be at, then I wasn't, unfortunately, I wasn't going to be able to run. Which
So that's when the money stopped as well, was it?
Yeah, and all your support, and
Yeah.
you get like all your physios and your brands and stuff like that. And I was like, see, I was there. I always say this. I was right on the edge. I was in a program called the World Class Potential Program, which is based at athletes who will be at the next Olympics or medaling at the ones after. So everything was just going the right way, and then that happened. But you know what? I thought that's life. It is what it is. And I needed to carry on and find another way of achieving a dream.
Was the Olympics in your sights then?
Yeah, that was my aim. So I mean, the guys who I was with and the group of guys that we were at, they've been to Olympics now. They've a good friend of mine who we trained with. He's been indoor world champion, European champion. They've been to Olympics 3 and 4 times. A lot of the guys who now they've done their athletics career, they've gone through it all. They've done this Olympic medals and whatnot. And I love that because I'm not one of these guys who would get I look at them and think, oh, that. Although I look at them and think that should have been me. That was my life. I love that other people can, achieve their dreams and live their best life.
You could have beaten them, couldn't you, Dean?
Yeah, easy.
Hope you don't listen to this one.
Yeah, I hope not. Yeah, we get loads of messages saying you said this, but no. Do you know what? And I love people doing well. And I used to every Olympic Games or every World Championships, I used to watch an Italian, just look at it and think, you still get the butterflies in your tummy when the whistle went before on your marks and I used to look and it does hurt. It still hurts now. Even to now, I look and think, that was me. That was my life. But do you know what? It wasn't meant to be. And although I always say this is, although that happened, and then obviously the surgeries and I've had 9 spinal surgeries now and whatever else. Is although everything that's coming and my attempts on my life and my collapsing and everything else that we've gone through, although all of that has brought me to the point I'm at now, that wouldn't change anything because, as you can imagine, I wouldn't fancy this pain, but it's now made me the man that I am today.
Absolutely.
And I truly believe that I'm a better person for that because I'm more empathetic. I'm more, I look out and I'm more caring and considerate for other people. And I just want, and people don't realize like, a lot of people out there are struggling, whether it's, for example, the other day we passed a guy and I'll be honest, years ago, I would have probably gone, what's he? Well, it looked like he's off his head. He's either high on alcohol or drugs or whatever else. And I used to, you'd look back and you'd look over and think, well, what an idiot. Why is he doing this? Why is he that? But actually, there's a reason why he's got to that point.
Yeah.
He may have got to the point that could quite easily have been me. Like, the pain that I'm in and the place that I was in, I could have lost everything. That could have been me on them streets. That could have been me taking drugs and alcohol and whatever else. So you should always look at people, and I do now. I look at things, situations and people a lot different, and I appreciate people and I appreciate life a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think it was that car crash that was the initial start for maybe, I don't know, your body being weaker and more, weaker in terms of the bones of what's gone wrong in your body? Or was it down the track from the things that it led on to?
No, well, they've said that they've come back. So it was years after.
Right.
Since then, I've obviously built myself back up from a sporting side, from a strength side, like in terms of running, yes.
Yes.
But after that, and then it was, 12, 13 years after, since this all started to then, unfold, when I had my injury in the gym and whatnot. So I was back, I was the strongest I'd ever been. I was, the fittest I've ever been. So that side was just, that chapter closed, and it was like that. Although that chapter was now finished, and it broke my heart, so be it. But it was this new chapter from that point there to the point where I was up until, my first surgery it was a different chapter, and everything was great. I mean, I was back up to, 18 and a half, nearly 19 stone of muscle. I was training really well. Everything was going well. I was, everything was how I would say right, and how I wanted the life to go, my family. Everything was going well, businesses and stuff like that. I was working, and then obviously until that dreaded day where it all happened, and then since then it's just been a nightmare.
Dean's story doesn't end at the bottom. It begins again there. In this first part, we've heard the unvarnished truth about pain, silence, and survival. If this conversation has stirred something in you, though, please remember, reaching out is a sign of strength and not weakness. We're proud that Leading Our Own Way is now in the top 10% of podcasts globally, reaching listeners in 47 countries. But here's the thing, not enough of our viewers are actually following the show. If you found value in Dean's story today, or believe in our mission, please take a second to press that follow button. It helps us reach even more people who need these conversations. Join us in part 2 as Dean faces his past head on and discovers the power of purpose after the fall. Join us tomorrow to hear more from today's incredible guests and learn valuable insights to help you lead your own way. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you then.